Minecraft. Try it! Indeed! A few episodes ago, we did a bunch of experiments with enderpearls. They were very interesting, but people suggested a bunch more experiments that I should run, and so I'm going to try it. We're going to try a bunch more experiments with enderpearls to find out weird and interesting stuff about the physics of how they behave. Let's go ahead and get started. In my last video about experiments with enderpearls, people had all kinds of good suggestions for other experiments to run, and so that's what we're going to do today. And one of those experiments was enderpearls and dispensers. Basically, do you teleport after an enderpearl pops out of a dispenser? So that one should be really easy to test, so let's go ahead and try it out. I will put a dispenser right over here. I will reach into the dispenser and pop an enderpearl inside there. And then I believe I have a switch in this box. And so we'll use that for the dispenser. Alright, I don't think that this will teleport me anywhere, but let's find out. If I pull the switch, the dispenser shoots out an enderpearl just as an object, as an entity that I can go walk over and pick up. And that's kind of what I expected. But it's good to know. So that's one experiment down. Let's do more. We'd previously determined that if you were in a minecart or a boat and you threw an enderpearl onto land, you would not teleport there, you'd stay in the minecart. But people asked, what happens if you throw the enderpearl onto somewhere where there's tracks? Might you teleport with the minecart? So let's find that out as well. I'm going to throw the enderpearl, and I believe I hit the tracks, and there are the purple particles over there, but I did not actually move anywhere. And that's also kind of what I expected. And so I think basically if you're inside a minecart or a boat, it doesn't matter where you throw the pearl, you don't end up at that location. You just stay inside the minecart or the boat. And once again, I lost 2.5 hearts, which leads to the next question that people were asking, which is we talked about how armor, at least unenchanted armor, does not affect the amount of damage you take. Someone asked, what happens if you block with a sword? And so let's try that. Right now I'm 2.5 hearts down, and I don't have food, so I'm not regaining health. So I'm going to throw it, change to my sword, I'm blocking. And I still took 2.5 hearts of damage. So blocking with the sword does not affect how much damage you take from teleportation of an enderpearl. However, people have suggested that the feather falling enchantment on boots, it is a type of fall damage, and so it just so happens that I happen to have a pair of feather falling boots right here. And so let's try putting these feather falling 2 boots on my person and then do the same experiment. So I'm down 5 hearts right now. I'm going to throw an enderpearl. And indeed, I only took another 1.5 hearts of damage. And so it does seem that feather falling and my boots didn't take any durability damage, but having feather falling on some boots does indeed give you protection against some of the damage that you take as a result of an enderpearl. The fact that the sun is going down is perfect, because another experiment that people wanted to know is what happens if you throw an enderpearl and then go sleep in a bed. Will you teleport out of bed, or how is that going to work? I'm a little worried that this one's going to crash the game or something, and so I'm going to save the game real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, I just made a backup of my game. I would not mind having a little bit of food in my belly, so I'm regaining some health since I'm getting so low. But the thing we want to try is throwing an enderpearl and then going to sleep. And the sun is far enough down that I will be able to get into the bed, and so let's throw this high into the air and then go to sleep. Wow. I heard it like hit the ground, I believe. It seems like it happened almost at the exact same time. But it's, oh yeah, and it's still nighttime. So I didn't sleep away the night. And so one would guess that I also didn't reset my spawn, but I also did not teleport over to the location where that was. And so that's interesting. And yeah, it's still the same time of day. And so it appears that an enderpearl crashing somewhere basically kind of wakes you up from bed, is how I interpret that result. So that was interesting. I'm glad people suggested that. Now I'm going to go sleep for real, and we'll do some other tests. With previous testing, we've already determined that throwing an enderpearl into the purple haze The purple haze is something that the ender pearl collides with, and so you just teleport to that location. What happens if I throw an ender pearl and then try to walk through the portal? Portals take a long time to kind of walk through and activate, and so I'm going to try to throw this up into the air, over into the ocean over there, in the hopes of keeping it airborne for the longest amount of time. But basically I'm going to throw it and then try to teleport to the Nether and see what happens. And since I just saved my game, if this crashes the game, then I don't feel too bad about it. And I think I will stand right here to try to do it. And then I can walk right into the Nether portal. Alright, here goes. Throwing it high into the air, walking into here. Entering the Nether. Okay, I made it all the way to the Nether. Now the real question is, when I teleport back, will I immediately... Is the ender pearl still in the air and will it break, or who knows what will happen? But let's go and find out. And I really should come to the Nether more often and grow some more netherwort and do some more potions. But that's for another day. Alright, I'm really curious to see what happens here. Leaving the Nether. There's an Enderman right there. Did you see him? He was just like teleporting over the horizon. I swear, as I've been throwing all these pearls, there have been more Endermen just kind of teleporting about on the surface. I think they're interested in my experiments. But it seems like that ender pearl just kind of went nowhere. And unfortunately, I don't even know exactly where I threw it. It would be interesting to see if it's just kind of lying on the bottom of the ocean. Although I think that's also unlikely. Okay. So, we did teleporting and then sleeping in a bed. We did teleporting and then going into the Nether. There was something else along those lines. Let me take a look at my list. I'll be right back. I expect it's the case based on our previous experiments, but I didn't actually show it, and people wanted to see, basically, from the bottom of the ocean, if I could throw an ender pearl back out in order to get to the surface. And so here I am down here. I'm going to be suffocating soon, so let's throw an ender pearl. And indeed, it goes flying out of the water, and yep, sure enough, I hit something over here and came out here. And it did not travel nearly as far as I thought it was going to, although possibly I ended up like hitting this. But it is the case that you can throw from underwater, and so once again, that could be a useful way if you're coming up from under the ocean, you know, when you've been doing some caving under the ocean or something, and you realize you're not going to make it to the surface before you suffocate. If there is some land that you can throw it to, so the ender pearl will eventually collide with something, that could be a way to get to the surface quickly. Alright. Another interesting experiment people have asked about that's kind of related to the Nether portal and the bed one is what happens if I throw one ender pearl in a big high arc and then throw another one kind of lower that's right next to me. Will I teleport to this one, and then when the other one hits the ground, teleport to that one, kind of in the opposite order that I threw them? For that experiment, I'll need 2 ender pearls, and right now I believe I'm down to 1. Wow, I'm definitely going through my ender pearl stash, but that's okay, because we're doing science, and it's fun and exciting and potentially useful stuff. Alright, so we're going to try this next. I have all of my hearts, and I'm also still even wearing the feather falling boots, I forgot. So I won't be taking that much damage. But basically, I'm going to throw this one in a high arc so it stays in the air for a long time. And then I'm going to throw this one along the ground, so I just teleport over here. And we'll see if when the second one hits, I also teleport. So here goes nothing. High arc. Low one. I teleported to there. And now I teleported to there. So it does seem that you can throw multiple pearls, and it's basically... when they finally collide with something, at that moment, you'll teleport to that location. And so you can have kind of multiple teleports in progress. And so that is pretty interesting. This is all very interesting. I still have only figured out, a couple of potentially, plausible ways to use them usefully inside of the game. But I'm hoping that these experiments, people will come up with kind of other useful strategies for where in the game, in order to, escape from mobs or do different things, it might be really useful to have these ender pearls. Alright, the next thing I want to do is more about your player's status and what kind of status you can keep while you throw an ender pearl and teleport. So I'll be right back. As you may already know, once you open a chest, you stay on the chest screen even if you move away. So for example, if you're climbing down a ladder and you see a chest beside you, you can open up the chest, and even as you move down the ladder far away from the chest, you can still be looking at the inventory inside. And so people want to know if the same thing happens with an ender pearl. And so if I throw the pearl high in the air and then look in the chest, after I teleport and land, will I still be looking in the chest? Let's find out. Throw it. Look in the chest. Is there any inventory here that I would like? Nope. It seems that the chest box closes the moment that you land somewhere and teleport over to that location. So that one's too bad, because that would be a really interesting way to kind of like transport inventory over long distances. Well, not terribly long, but over a number of blocks. That could have been cool, and so I'm glad we tested that. There's other kind of like status of the player. For example, charging up your bow. So you can pull your arrow way back and then have it drawn for kind of a fully charged bow hit. And so, can we do that? Do we preserve the bow charge? And so, I will throw a pearl high in the air, charge up the bow, and the bow does seem to be still fully charged. And so I did preserve the bow charge while I was teleporting. And so that is potentially a little bit interesting. So if you needed to do a critical hit against an enemy with your bow, and you were just out of range to be able to shoot the bow, you could charge up the bow and throw the pearl, or I guess throw the pearl and then charge up the bow so that the moment you landed you'd be ready to fire. Although, yeah, I can't imagine that really being a practical strategy in-game. But there you go, you keep your bow charge stats. People wanted to know if I'm sprinting while the pearl is in the air. When I land, will I continue sprinting? That's a great question. Let's see if we can find out. This one might be a little harder to test, because I'm not the best sprinter in the world. Alright. I am sprinting. And yes, I'm still sprinting, I can tell. So you do manage to preserve your sprinting status, even after teleporting. And that's another one that seems like it could potentially be useful. Actually, if you're doing parkour map stuff, that could be really kind of useful and cool. For something where basically you don't have enough room to start sprinting, well, I think possibly even on a little one block area you can start sprinting and like do a sprint jump. But that would be pretty cool if you had to like, you know, be sprinting and then throw a pearl in order to land on a tiny little place and then already be sprinting to immediately do a sprint jump or something like that. I don't know, I'm just kind of making stuff up. But that was pretty cool. And then another thing people wanted to know is, suppose you're on fire, will you stay on fire? And so I guess I ought to test that, but to do that I think I'm going to empty out my inventory, so give me a moment. People love the sound of picking up all the items, and so I would hate to not do this on camera. Pop, 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 pop. And thanks for the people who told me that simply walking on these plants won't trample them. It's only when you kind of jump on them or fall on them that the tilt soil can get ruined. So that's useful to know. Alright, but it's on to more experiments. Okay, this will be dangerous. I've taken off armor because I don't really want to just damage it and waste it. But basically, I'm going to step in the fire until I catch fire, and then I'm going to throw the ender pearl and see if I am still on fire when I get back out. And so, here goes nothing. Okay, I'm on fire. I threw the pearl, I teleported, and I'm still on fire. Okay, great. And I teleported a little bit closer over here so that hopefully... Oh, the fire went out before I needed to get in the water, but I was trying to get over to this little pool of water. Alright, so that answers that. If you're on fire, an ender pearl won't help unless you use the ender pearl in order to teleport over to some water, presumably. Okay. People asked if you could teleport to ladders, and based on our previous experience kind of teleporting against a solid wall, my guess is yes, because I think you'll just teleport over into the location where the ladder is, and then you might kind of like fall beside it, but you should be able to grab onto it. The way the ladder's hitbox has changed in 1.1 and will change back in 1.2, it's possible that this will change, but basically I'm going to see if I can teleport to somewhere up on this ladder. So here goes nothing. Oops. I just missed. Alright, and now I'm at the bottom of the ocean somewhere meeting some squids. Alright, I will go try that again with better aim. That's actually happened to me a couple of times. Your player is right-handed, and it does feel like the ender pearl goes slightly to the right of where it seems the cursor is aiming. I could be making it up, and I'm just making excuses, but I do feel like that's happened to me a couple of times, and so I'm going to aim to the left side of the ladders next time. See you again in 1 moment. Okay, let's try this again. This time I'm going to aim kind of at the left side of the ladder. Right there. There we go. And, yep, I teleported right over here and I'm on the ladder. About halfway up, right where it hit. And so, yeah, that actually could be, you'll recall over on the Ender Farm, basically I swim up a thing in order to get most of the way up and then climb up a ladder the rest of the way up, and so I could use an ender pearl just to kind of throw up to the ladder in order to get up there. Although I like the water system that I have because the water at the bottom also pushes the mobs away so they can't stand right underneath it where I can't see them. and it keeps the Enderman from trying to go down there. But still, that could be useful as a way if you had just some kind of other than the Ender Farm, some kind of other castle in the sky kind of thing or whatever. You could just have a little ladder hanging down, and you could throw the pearl and hit the ladder and then climb the rest of the way back up or something like that. That could be cool. Someone asked if you can teleport really through solid walls and things. I guess most of the experiments I've done, I've been throwing the pearl to somewhere that's within my line of sight or vision. And so in this case, I'm going to throw it over this wall and it'll land in the ocean somewhere that I definitely can't see on screen. And I'm pretty sure this should work just fine. But as a result, I'm kind of just teleporting through this mound of dirt that's over here and over into the ocean somewhere over there. But let's just try it to double check. Yep, okay. I teleported to somewhere that's completely outside of my line of sight. And let's hope I'm not too deep under the ocean. Yeah, I will be able to get back up. Yep, I teleported way over here. And so I originally threw it from somewhere behind these reeds and this little hill of dirt. And so it's definitely the case that you don't need to be able to see where you're landing. It's just wherever the ender pearl finally crashes into after you throw it. So that's good to test. Let's see if there's any others. Someone asked about what happens if you throw the pearl right before you die and then you die. And if you respawn, would you teleport? And I do want to test that one out, but right now I have 18 levels of experience, and I would prefer not to die, and instead hold on to this experience and use it for doing some enchantments soon. And so perhaps after I next do some enchantments and my levels go back down to 0, I'll test that one out. And let's see, is there anything else that I wanted to test right now? Oh yes, there is at least one other thing. So I will see you guys in a moment. This was one of my favorite suggestions, actually. If you throw an ender pearl at a zombie pigman, will he get angry at you? And I don't know the answer. And so if we have to go to the Nether to find out, then we'll go to the Nether to find out. And I'm not going to throw it at the first zombie pigman that I see. Instead, I know there's a particular area where I will be less likely to die of pigmen afterwards, which is basically, gosh, I haven't been in the Nether in a while. Over here, there's kind of a nice long narrow hallway, and then there's a little kind of small room that'll probably have some pigmen in it, and so I'm going to try it over there so that I'm less likely to get killed by all the pigmen, because once again, I'm at level 18 and I don't want to die until I enchant some items. Alright, but I think it's, yeah, just right over here. There's usually some pigmen around here, and this is a smaller room. Hello, are there any pigmen here? Yes, there is one pigman. Alright, so we are going to try to throw a pearl at the pigman and see if he gets angry. And the pigman is inconveniently standing in a fire right now. And so I'm going to put out these little fires that he's standing in so that when I teleport right over to him, because we know that when you throw a pearl at mobs, you teleport to that location, that at least, alright. And there's only 2 pigmen about right now. Yeah, I'm just going to try this and see what happens. Yep. He got angry. Or at least he made the sound. I just realized I didn't give him a chance to double check that he was already attacking me. I'm pretty sure he got angry. I did bring a second pearl. I'm going to run this experiment again just to be sure. And this time wait for him to attack me before I just go and assume that he's angry because he made a noise. Okay, I am going to try it out here. This is kind of a dangerous area, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway. I just need to make sure the pigmen walk around a lot. Oh, there's a lot of pigmen out here. I'm pretty worried about this, but it's for science. I just need to make sure I actually hit one of them. So, I'll wait until one of them kind of like quits walking. Alright, I'm pretty sure I can hit this guy in the face. Alright, and so are they after me? Yes! They're definitely after me, but I made it back into this kind of narrow tunnel. And so I should be able to fight them off. Oh dear. That was a little scary. And now are they still angry at me, or was it just those few? Because there was more over here. But they don't seem to be angry at me, and so I think we survived. But yes, if you throw a pearl at a zombie pigman, he definitely gets angry at you. And you teleport right over next to him and his buddies, so be careful. Oops, that one. Crap, there are still ones that are angry at me. Oh dear. Alright, there's still at least one more who's angry at me over there. And so maybe you have to be within range for them to be coming after you. I'm not really sure. There's a magma cube over here. Hello, little magma cube. Ooh, which I think they now drop items in 1.1. Used to be that they didn't drop anything but wind chimes. Pure wind chimes, yep. when I got in range and he saw me, then he started coming after me. And so I need to be careful, because I think there's one down in the pit over here. But I think I can run down to my house before he gets me. Alright, and we're safe. It's all for science. Alright, that's a good batch of experiments for today. Again, if you have more ender pearl experiments, I'd be happy to try a few more. There's definitely one or two more that I want to try after I am capable of dying. Without kind of losing all of my experience after I've enchanted something. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and yeah, there's obviously one other type of experiment related to ender pearls that we haven't tried that we're going to do at some point, which is using ender eyes to get to the stronghold. And yes, so that's definitely on my list of things to do here in Minecraft 1.1, because I haven't even done that in 1.0 to like find the chests full of interesting items and different things that are in the new stronghold since 1.8. So we'll definitely do that at some point. In any case, hope you guys are having a good day, and I will see you next time.